Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. Also joining us is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael Freer, who's a senior writer at Stat Factor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. And tonight, we're thrilled to be rejoined by 3-time NBA champion Scott Williams, who since his playing days has spent time as an NBA coach, motivational speaker, author, and broadcaster for both college and NBA games. This is episode number 261, the Pat Spencer episode, as Pat has worn number 61 for each of the last 3 seasons with the Golden State Warriors. It seems like Pat will continue wearing number 61 after signing a 2-way deal with the Phoenix Suns this offseason, as he looks to continue to find success in the NBA and possibly even follow the footsteps of Collin Gillespie in Phoenix, who originally signed a 2-way contract with the Suns, worked his way up, earning a 4-year, $48 million deal this summer. Scott, as a fellow resident here in the Valley, and a guy that brought toughness and energy as a former player yourself, how much have you enjoyed Collin Gillespie's rise up here in the Valley?
It's been fantastic to watch this kid just continue to improve each year, get more and more confident with his own playing abilities in the system. He makes guys around him better. He's one of the league leaders in three-point shooting accuracy from a season ago. So happy to see him be rewarded for his excellent play and to be part of the Suns' future for a number of years.
Awesome stuff. And, of course, we're talking about one of your former teams in the Phoenix Suns, but I see here tonight on the show you're wearing a Bulls polo, and it looks like you have a pin on. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I got my Bulls polo on. I thought since I hadn't done a broadcast since we had the celebration of life for my good friend and former teammate, Stacey King, who passed away this summer too early, I thought I would honor him tonight wearing his King pin that they gave out at the celebration of life. I plan on wearing this a number of times throughout my broadcast this upcoming basketball season as well. He was not only a teammate, but a good friend. He was that guy that provided, I would say, the comic relief we needed sometimes, playing alongside somebody as intense as Michael Jordan. Sometimes the air got real thick, and we needed King's ability to just naturally get guys to relax. And it was wonderful to be around him for the number of years that I had a chance. And of course, the last 35 years after we have remained good and close friends. He was that glue guy that kind of kept all of us former Bulls connected, whether it was sending out group text or having us on his Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast and sending out hot sauce that I grew up in east of Los Angeles, but I got tender lips. I can't handle that hot sauce, King. So, but I always did enjoy sharing it with my friends as well. So I will miss him dearly, and I wanted to be able to honor him this evening.
Hey, so I got a question about this. All right. We all know that Michael was a legendary ball buster. Okay. I mean, pretty much 24/7. Was Stacey, could he give and take with Michael in that lane?
Yes. And that's what made it so great. I think when I first got to Chicago, obviously this was my rookie year, hadn't won a championship. They were hell-bent on winning, just beating the Pistons in the playoffs and trying to get to the NBA Finals, right? Having a home court advantage. Everything was so intense around just beating the Pistons. They had been knocked out by the three previous seasons. So Stacey would, when Michael would get on guys, Stacey would in on Stacey. Stacey would go back at him with, some little funny jokes or impersonations, whether you're doing Bill Cartwright's voice or Phil Jackson's walk or trying to do imitations of Michael Jordan's moves on the floor. He kept things light for us, and I think that kind of was a nice balance with the intensity that, like I said, Jordan was providing.
So Bill Cartwright through the elbows, and Stacey had the velvet touch. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, he Cartwright through the elbows, knees, asshole, and King provided the jokes and the impersonations.
Awesome.
That's great. Well, everybody loved the guy. I never had the pleasure of meeting him, but just, when 100% of people say you're the best, you are the best.
Legendary broadcast. He was one of one. His ability to be able to have fun in the broadcast, but also inform the viewer he did it seamlessly. It didn't seem like he'd ever come down heavy-handed on players, but yes, he was also honest when the Bulls weren't living up to the expectations as well. And when you're working for a team and not for a station like ESPN or ABC, there's a fine line that you have to walk. And I think nobody did it better than King. He always, I think, had the trust of the viewers that he was going to tell it like it was. And like I say, he wasn't a homer, but he also wanted to be positive about the team, the player, then the future and the direction, but let them know when they were half-stepping.
Nice.
Bruce, take it away.
All right. So, okay, let's, we'll all remember Stacey, and one person that we'll always remember too is LeBron James. And, one of your former teams, the 76ers, have transformed their roster with the addition of Jaylen Brown and LeBron James this summer. And a lot of casual fans are going to just assume, they got 4 All-Stars in their starting lineup. So, they're going to rise right to the top along with the Knicks. But I believe last season, as the season went on, the leadership of that team was moving from Joel Embiid to Tyrese Maxey, to where it was really kind of becoming Tyrese Maxey's team, although he would always respect Joel Embiid. But, I mean, you could just see, the body language, the availability, the success. It was moving in that direction. But now, Brown and LeBron, these guys are strong leaders too, right? So can Nick Nurse figure out a way to walk the fine line? So, because Maxey's going to feel challenges, I think, that he wasn't expecting now. Instead of being like kind of 1 or 1A, he went down in the pecking order because of these guys. How do you think he's going to handle that?
Well, it all starts at the top. That was the great thing about being in Chicago, having a strong leader like Phil Jackson at the helm. Nick Nurse is going to have to assume that role. In any championship team, players have to make sacrifices. There's no doubt about that. And Nick Nurse is going to have to figure out how to keep everybody engaged, but yet get some guys to buy in to maybe taking a little bit lesser role in some areas and doing a little bit more in other areas that they maybe haven't done as much in. And LeBron's, one thing I'll say about this kid, I remember him when he was 19 years old, right? Like back in 2004. I can't even believe this. It's 2006, 2007, and this kid's still tying up his Nikes. Like, I've been sitting on a couch. I've gained 100 pounds. Like, what is this guy on that he keeps him injury-free and as athletic as he is? I want some whatever it is he's injecting or drinking, because I gotta drop some weight for sure. But I love LeBron's ability to be able to connect with his teammates. You see it in some of the reunions that the Cavs do. The 10-year reunion, he had a bunch of guys over in Europe playing golf and on wave runners. Yeah, the guys just like being around LeBron. And I think that's going to be infectious in a quick period of time in Philadelphia. He did it in Miami. I mean, Chris Bosh, he had to take a kind of a different role in Miami to get those guys to be as successful as they were. They won 2-3 championships down there in Miami now. I'm drawing a blank, but everybody's going to sacrifice a little parts of the game. Max is going to have to sacrifice a little bit. Brown's going to even have to sacrifice. Of course, LeBron, I don't think he's worried about statistics. He just wants another championship ring, so he'll do whatever it takes to motivate Embiid and to get him going and maybe play a little harder and maybe it's more games than he would normally have sat out in years past, but he's not 100%. Because LeBron will go out there 75, 80%. I don't like the fact that he flops around, but he'll be out there on that floor, leading his basketball team. The other guy on that Sixers team that I wanted to talk about too was the young fella. Where's my notes at here? Who's also going to be a little bit.
VJ Edgecombe?
Thank you. VJ Edgecombe, who I think is a fantastic talent in a couple of his games when he was down there in Baylor. Everyone say, well, his growth is going to be stunted. I don't see it that way. I see being around all of these future Hall of Famer LeBron James and probably Jaylen Brown before it's all said and done, and indeed the MVP. I think it's only going to continue to help him understand what he's got to do to get to the next level.
You know, I was talking to a friend of the show and a personal friend. You might actually know him. Dave Wohl used to be a coach.
Yes.
Okay. Dave's a good friend. He's been on the show a few times. I was talking to him about this the other day, and he thinks that Nick Nurse would should consider making VJ Edgecombe the sixth man, kind of for the reasons you just said. When he's out there with those other four guys, his shots are going to be limited. But if they bring him off the bench as kind of the head guy on the second unit, he's going to get lots of shots, and that's probably what he needs. What do you think about that?
I think that, Coach Wall, obviously, he's been doing it for years, been around the game a long time, so that's a great observation. And, Nick Nurse will figure all that stuff out. There's no doubt in my mind. They just got, Caldwell Pope as well, so he's another piece that they just added here this last week. So he's got a lot of guys that he can learn from, whether he's in the starting lineup one night or coming off the bench as a sixth or seventh guy. He's going to get his opportunities to shine.
Hey, Scott, you kind of touched on it a little bit here. Your last season in the NBA, 2004-2005, with the Cavaliers, happened to be LeBron's second season in the league. And I'm just curious, even at that young age, could you see the fact that what could you see that made LeBron seem destined not just to be this great player, but really iconic in the history of the league?
Well, I'd probably be the worst general manager ever because I didn't see this guy playing 23, 24 years, being the statistical leader in damn near every statistic in the NBA that there is, games played, points, minutes, you name it. I think he's probably at the top or in the top five in just about every category. I didn't see that. What I saw was a driven 19-year-old that worked as hard as Michael Jordan did in practice. And I hadn't seen that since I left Jordan in 93. So, 10 years later, 11 years later, now I'm seeing this 19-year-old kid. I'm going, I didn't see that in Dirk Nowitzki. I didn't see that in Amari Stoudemire. I didn't see it in Steve Nash, Michael Finley. All the other Hall of Famers that I had an opportunity to be teammates with, I didn't see that same level of commitment to trying to get better every day in practice until I saw it again with LeBron. And maybe that should have been my cue right there. But I thought he'd be a great NBA player. I thought he'd probably be multiple All-Star, maybe a second or third or first All-NBAer. But I didn't know he was destined to be considered one of the greatest players the game has ever seen, and certainly headed to the Hall of Fame.
Now, of course, free agency headlines have been dominated by LeBron and the 76ers since LeBron's latest decision to join the team. But prior to that, the headlines were widely dominated by our guy Giannis, Scott, and what his future would be with the Bucks. That was always in question, and where he might land if traded. So now that this is all kind of, the dust has settled, he's landed in Miami. I am curious to get your thoughts into kind of the timeline here of how everything went down with a superstar kind of being, seems like, pressured out of Milwaukee by the media. At least that was the narrative for a number of years now. And then on the flip side of that, how you like his fit in Miami alongside Bam.
Well, like LeBron, you were there with me when we had the Greek Freak when he was a skinny little teenager with no muscles. We only won 15 games, and we all got fired at the end of the season. At least I know the coaching staff. Yeah. I saw him years later with my kid, and in Madison Square Garden, he's got muscles coming out of his ears. I was like, hey, why didn't you have that when I was coaching you? Well, maybe we wouldn't have got fired. We would have won more than 15 games. But again, Giannis had that same sort of work ethic, that LeBron had. Now this is after my playing days, being coaching that. He would always be the first in the gym. I mean, it was Chris Middleton. These dudes would, and I was always the first one, but they were the first players in the gym when you get them on the court and start passing them some balls, and out there with Josh Oppenheimer, Mr. O's and D's. We'd always be out there working with these guys. And if Giannis lost to Chris Middleton after practice in games, he wouldn't let Chris Middleton leave. They continued playing one-on-one until Giannis could finally get a win. So should have seen the greatness right there and Antetokounmpo. But again, I'd make a horrible general manager because I didn't know he'd go on to win 2 MVPs and bring the Bucks the first NBA title since Lou Alcindor did back in the whatever that was, the 60s, early 70s. So it was fun to watch. I'm sorry that he's leaving Milwaukee. You know, like me, probably have that special place in your heart for the city of Milwaukee. Like I said, I was a player there, I was a broadcaster there, I was a coach there. I never wanted to leave. They just kept getting rid of me. But I'm looking forward to a fresh start for him in Miami. You know, this guy averaged 27 points last year, just under 10 rebounds. He shot 62% from the field, but he only played 36 games. Now, some of those were by design, some of them were by injury. But I want to see what a healthless Antetokounmpo can do alongside Bam Adebayo. So, you know, he's a scorer. He had a game where he scored, was it 70 points, 83 points? 83 points. You know, a little of those were doctored. But, you know, I want to see what those guys can do. You know, will he elevate Bam's game? He averaged 20 points and 10 boards last year, but only shot 44% from the field. So will that field goal percentage go up? And will he be more of a shot blocker? Hell, I think I blocked 1 shot a game, and he's under that. So I want to see him be a defensive force down there, not having to worry about getting in foul trouble because he's got a guy like the Greek Freak right beside him to help him out. So that's going to be a great duo to watch. I mean, there's so much change in the Eastern Conference landscape with players, and it's going to be an exciting 26-27 season.
So, all right, let's move to your former and future team, the Chicago Bulls. They have been stuck in mediocrity the last few seasons, play in, and then last year they actually took a step backwards. They went from like 39 wins to 31, which I was shocked by. I really was expecting them to top the 500 mark last year, but it didn't work out. But they bring in a 6'10 rookie from North Carolina. Sound familiar? Okay. Joining the team. So what have you seen in Caleb's game, and which skills does he have that you think he would allow him to make an impact right away?
Well, listen, I mentioned James and Antetokounmpo. He's got that same sort of fire, that same sort of desire. Yeah. I've listened to some of his interviews. I went and watched him out in Summer League 3 games in Vegas this summer. The work ethic is there. The hunger is there. The passion is there. Now, there still needs to be some skill development like those other 2 guys, you know, had to develop their skills when they were 19, 20 years old as well. But I think he's got the athleticism, the raw power around the basket, the way James and Antetokounmpo had it. He's going to put on, I would say, 15 to 20 good pounds of muscle to help his frame at the power forward position. We've already seen strides in the outside shot. He made 7 3-pointers at the University of North Carolina, mainly because he was just taking it to the rim and overpowering those young college kids with plays around the basket. But he made 7 threes in his first NBA Summer League game. And the shot looks good. Like, yeah, okay, you ain't lucky and made a couple threes, made a lot of threes in one game. But if you look at the form is much improved. So he's been in that lab working for the last 5 months. He went back to Chicago after Summer League, didn't take any time off to continue working with the coaching staff, having said he learned what he needed to learn how to improve before the start of training camp. So that's exciting for a former Bulls player like myself to see a hungry young Tiger coming in there, chomping at the bit to want to go out there and prove that he belongs right away and try to win the Rookie of the Year. Why not? He set his goals on trying to win the Rookie of the Year. And I'm with him. I want to see him go out there and do it.
Hey, Scott, you got to be a part of an NBA dynasty as a member of the Bulls during the 90s. And now we're in a stretch of 8 straight years having a different NBA champion. I'm just curious, do you think the league needs a dynasty a la the Warriors in recent memory? Or is this stretch of having different NBA champions good for the league in terms of the interest and fan following?
Michael, you just wanted to be your New York Knicks. I know you got that Knicks shirt on there. You want the Knicks to go out there and run off 2 or 3 in a row.
I've mentioned every show who the reigning NBA champion is, and I hadn't done it yet. But if you really want me to do it, I have no problem saying that
you were popping out before the show, so I'm outing you. I know you got that Knicks shirt on, and you're just dying to raise it up. Like the players do, and go New York, go. Like, listen, we had some battles. I told you we had some battles against the Knicks and Pat Riley. He had those guys wound so tight with Charles Smith and Oakley and Ewing and Mason. It beat the hell out of me. That's probably why I walk with a limp today. But I was cheering for the Knicks. Like I like Wembanyama, but his time's gonna come, right? It's like the first year of the finals. You got to pay some dues, bro. Knicks hadn't won it 50 plus years. So I was happy for the city of New York. I think it's great for basketball. I think the whole country wanted to see the Knicks get a championship. I was out in Hawaii when they clinched it. We had the whole bar going crazy for the Knicks. It was just fun, right? Like they got some great likable dudes on that team. Brunson, and who played with his daddy, God, I'm forgetting all the OG
Anunoby, Mikal Bridges,
thank you. The kid that came over from Minnesota inside, great. He's an inside scorer. He can shoot it from the outside, the big fella. So they got some likable dudes on that squad. They got that little Villanova thing happening there. It's kind of fun. But to answer your question more directly, it's great to see so many teams have an opportunity to compete for the title. Like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with there being a champion, a different champion every other year until somebody can step to the forefront and just, run roughshod over the league in the playoffs. I think the Knicks were kind of scuffling around. They caught fire, a lightning in a bottle, whatever you want to call it. In the playoffs, it was fun. It was fun to watch the way they play as a team. And I think that's what it's going to take for Philadelphia as well, whether it's going to be Boston or, if this Toronto thing ever happens with Kawhi Leonard up with the Raptors, or even Washington's going to be much improved this year. So Miami, it's going to be fun in the East. And of course you got, you still don't forget about Oklahoma City and San Antonio. And who knows what the old cats might do in Golden State with Steph Curry.
Okay. A few weeks ago on this very show, we had former Celtic Leon Poe. You might remember Leon Poe on the show. He played against the Lakers in the 2008 finals when your former coach, Phil Jackson, he was coaching them. And after Leon absolutely torched those guys in game 2, Phil Jackson in the post-game press conference intentionally mispronounced Leon's last name. He called him Leon Powell, okay? Now, I asked Leon about that because to me it was like, Phil was like, that was kind of a sophomore type of move. But anyway, Leon laughed it off, right? He said, hey, you know what? Phil would always try to do things to get under people's skin, okay? You're smiling. So you must have a memory or two of Phil playing some mind games with you when he coached you in Chicago. Give us a story or 2 or 3.
Well, yeah, the master of the mind games, right? I don't know about getting under the skin, but definitely the master of the mind games, to be sure. Coach Jackson, whether it be trying to provide bulletin point material for our locker room, or writing the officials, complaining to the league about calls we weren't getting, when we played against the Pistons or the Knicks. Or very rarely did I remember him ever going after an opposing player directly the way he went after Poe. But I wouldn't put it past him. That's for sure. The guy, he was the like I said, the master of trying to manipulate the game with maybe outside the actual arena, whether it be, like I say, through the media, complaints to the officials or whatnot. But me personally, I was always the young guy on a lot of those teams, especially my first year. And we're rolling off 6, 7, 8, 9 wins in a row, and we maybe had to catch a bad game, and I might have played 12 minutes at the most. And he coming down heavy on me, like, dude, hold on. And, that old saying, SHIT rolls downhill. Well, it kind of sucks when you're always the one at the bottom of the hill. But I learned right away not to worry about how he was delivering a message, just more like what the message was. And I think the guys that had the most success playing in the Phil Jackson era, the Phil Jackson system, were those guys that tried to listen to the message and I guess and not the delivery. So I was fortunate that I had great coaches in high school with my high school coach Mike Lowe, and then of course at the University of North Carolina with Dean Smith. So I understood X's and O's really well. I understood spacing and time and score and all those types of things. So when Phil Jackson would kind of come at me, I would say sometimes sideways, I never let it bother me to keep me move me off of the big picture, what he really wanted for me to try to be able to help the squad. And I think to my credit, I was, maybe played 50 games over the course of the season. But when the playoffs came around, against Detroit in the Eastern Conference Finals and the Lakers in the NBA Finals, I was in the rotation. I had become a trusted member of the team by the coaching staff and by my teammates. So I always felt like it's not what he's or how he's saying it, it's what he's saying. Now, can you go out there and execute that the next time you get your opportunity?
Awesome. So, Scott, we've touched upon some off seasons for teams. We talked about Philly with LeBron, talked about the Miami Heat with Giannis, even your own Chicago Bulls with their top draft pick. So my question to you is this. I mean, there's been a lot of other big moves around the NBA. So I'm curious what team or offseason move specifically really surprised you and caught your attention this summer?
Yeah, I wrote a couple down because it was a lot of movement. Obviously, we talked about James and Antetokounmpo right off the rip, and Brown. I think those ones were probably the biggest. Former MVPs either in the league or in the NBA Finals. Those were the biggest one. But the kid Ball going to Minnesota, teaming him up there with Anthony Edwards, who can literally jump out of the gym. I'm looking forward to some spectacular high handoffs when the T-Wolves put it back together on the floor, or spoon feed the big guy underneath there. Yeah, Gobert. I think that team's going to be a real fun team to watch now in the West as well. I kind of mentioned some of the other teams in the West. I think that's going to be a fun one. We talked about Kawhi Leonard leaving the Clippers. If that trade ever does finally go through, I was on the website today checking to see if he was even listed on the Toronto Raptors roster, and I couldn't find it. Have you guys been able to get any?
No, he's not on there yet because he's legally not been traded yet.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. The big feller that was at Carolina for a hot minute, Kessler, going to the Lakers from Utah, and I know he didn't play, but maybe about as many games as I did last year in the league. But big, wide body, teaming up down there with Luka. That's going to be spectacular. And Austin Reeves, who I absolutely love for the Lakers. So. But the biggest guy that I want to know about, which you guys know about, and I'm going to give you some nicknames and see if you can figure out who I'm talking about. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, and Milt Chamberlain. Any guesses?
That's the Lakers summer league guy, right? I forget what school he went to.
Robbie Avila. I think he's got like the greatest nickname to be on the Lakers. You got all those Hall of Fame centers, and then you get a nickname like those. That's absolutely fantastic. They got to sign him, right? They got to sign him to a two-way contract after that.
Absolutely, and he's joining the Snowtime Lakers. I'm sure you've seen that nickname for the full team now with Luka, Kessler, Reeves. They're the.
I hadn't heard that one yet. That's a good one.
Dalton connects there. They've got Jake LaRavia. That's the Snowtime Lakers.
It's like the Celtics of the 1980s.
Excuse me, I'm battling a little bit I'm a little under the weather, so I'm battling a cough. So that's the play on the Showtime Lakers, the Snowtime Lakers.
Yes,
it took this old man a minute to catch up. And I grew up out in LA in the 80s in the Showtime era. I should have been right on top of that one. That's a good one. Who came up with that one? One of you guys?
No, I wish. I wish we could take credit for that one. But, Scott, I have one quick follow-up here. You mentioned the Minnesota, being really excited about the pairing of LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards in the backcourt. I wonder if you have any concerns, just being a former big man in the league and coach, as far as teams exposing Rudy Gobert in the playoffs. I mean, he's their only 5-man now because they shipped Naz Reid out to Charlotte in that deal for LaMelo Ball. They've got Jaden McDaniels, who's now going to play small ball 4. He's a pretty skinny guy. So I'm just curious to get your thoughts. Like, come playoff time, 7-game series, we've seen times where Rudy Gobert has been played off the floor, just putting in, offensive schemes that he can't keep up with. Like, what's your thoughts on putting so much pressure into Rudy?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Rudy. And he's a big French guy, and I know they like his size to go up against a guy like Wembanyama, but Wembanyama's running circles around the dude. Like, I mean, he's not like Sean Bradley. I love Sean Bradley as a person, but Sean wasn't real interested in playing basketball. He was, tall as Wembanyama, but not as athletic and couldn't move as quickly and recover as quickly. Didn't have, even though Wembanyama's skinny, seems like he's got skinny strength. If you know what I mean, doesn't seem like he gets pushed off his spot as much as Bradley did back in the day. Obviously, the desire to want to be a better basketball player is obviously helping him as well. But go back to Gobert and their lack of size, they got to try to do something, make some moves. Maybe they're not done yet, and until a team starts the season, I'll kind of reserve judgment on what the general managers and the coaches going to try to pull off here. But they are putting a lot of pressure on the big guy to stay on the floor and be effective.
Hey, Scott, we're in a different era of the NBA than we, previous decades or whatever. I was just curious, what do you enjoy about this generation or this era of the NBA, and what frustrates you about this era, this type of play that the NBA has become?
Well, I give a lot of credit to the athleticism of the players. What I don't like, to be honest with you, is the lack of inside-outside attack. And I get it, right? The game has changed since D'Antoni was, out here doing his thing with the 7 seconds or less. With those Phoenix Suns teams, hell, they would probably at this point now be one of the lowest scoring teams in the NBA if you threw their points per game up against what the league average was in the 26 season. So the game has gotten much faster. The emphasis to shoot threes. Hell, I went to a Bulls Golden State Warriors game 2 years ago, and they combined for 95 3-point shots. And when I played my third game in the league, I played against Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics in the Garden. And we had, Craig Hodges and John Paxson, and they had DJ and Larry and Danny Ainge. There wasn't one 3-point shot attempted by either team in the game. I mean, that's how much the game has changed in the last 36 years, that there is no more inside-outside attack, or guards don't shoot 50% from the floor anymore. And they want to crack up 23s a half each team. That part I don't like to watch. It seems like it's a lot of free throws, a lot of dunks, and a lot of 3-point shots. And there's not a whole lot of spacing and player movement, playing off the ball. And I'm not saying the guys got to go back to the triangle where we could, run the triangle and everybody got a little chance to touch it. But I do miss some of the way we played back in the 80s and 90s to play a little inside out in the mid-range game and whatnot.
So you probably like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander then, because he's not up there jacking up threes all the time. He's doing other things.
No.
Oh, why not? The guy's a 2-time MVP, Scott.
The other thing I don't stand is I can't stand is the floppy. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably like the number one guy in the league, at least in the playoffs last year. Well, it gets any contact with the ball, they go to the ground, and these officials are going to blow the whistle because he's carrying the ball down to the ground. You can't call it for traveling, so you have to give him the foul call. You need the 5 team fouls rather than quickly, and then adds to more free throw shooting. So, I respect his game. I wish that the NBA would do more to take some of that minuscule contact and make it part of the game instead of rewarding these guys for acting like they got shot by a 44 Magnum and falling to the ground, or whatever, flipping a shot up that goes up over the backboard. And maybe these teams start penalizing teams. I talked about this 25 years ago, how it seemed like there was more of a soccer mentality infiltrating basketball, and always one of these old guys. I'd never be one of these old guys be like, oh, my era was better than what they do now. But that is one aspect where I always wanted. I didn't have much skill, so I had to play a strong, physical man style of the game in order to stay on the floor. I would just like a little maybe something in between.
In a couple of weeks from now, we're going to have on legendary referee Steve Javy, who's a good friend of mine. So we'll probably explore that particular area of discussion with Steve a few times.
Can I interrupt you 1 second there, Bruce, just to say,
go ahead.
I hated all those NBA officials. I hated them all, except for Steve Javy. I like Steve Javy because I think he was also in college with me back in the ACC, which maybe I shouldn't like him because I was the all-time foul leader in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I think that record still stands today, some near 40 years later. But you tell Javy I said what's up. He's okay in my book.
We definitely will. Steve is a wonderful guy. He's actually become a deacon in the Catholic Church, so he leads church services on Sunday at his church. He's a very, very spiritual guy. Got his master's degree in theology and he still works for ESPN doing the rules stuff from the Secaucus. So yeah, you should check out that show in a couple weeks. You'll probably enjoy it because you're going to get name checked. So now you can count on that.
I'm counting on you guys to send that one to me then. All right.
Oh yeah, yep. We'll get it to you. Okay, listen, from the ridiculous to the more ridiculous, former NBA players Enes Kanter Freedom and Royce White have declared themselves eligible to try out for the WNBA because they now identify as trans women, okay? It's obviously a stunt on their part. They're not going to play in the WNBA. But, any thoughts on what they're trying to accomplish by that?
Well, listen, first of all, you named it, called it right. It's a stunt. I'm not for anybody that wants to try to bash marginalized community in any way, shape, or form, especially when it comes to sports. Trans athletes at the high school level, it's not 1%. It's not a 10th of a percent or 100th of a percent or even 10th. It's 0.00002% of what you got in trans athletes in high school sports. So listen, they have a tough enough time in today's society, these poor kids with all the social media bullying, online bullying, and everything else. If some kid wants to try to get an escape by playing sports, go let them play a damn sport. It's not going to affect anybody's life at the high school level. It's certainly not doing anything at the pro level. These guys trying to make some sort of they feeling lonely or left out and hadn't had their name in the paper or something. I don't really like to get involved with that, other than the fact that I consider myself a sheepdog. I don't care if it's a trans athlete or whether it be somebody that's in the gay or lesbian community or immigrants or whatever the case might be. I'm all about trying to let people live and let live the best of the bill if they're not harming themselves, anybody around them, or anybody in society. They're just trying to make their way. Let them make their damn way and stop making it tougher for them.
Preach, baby. Good job.
Hey, Scott, your alma mater, North Carolina, has made some major headlines in recent years, some for being good news and some not so good news. But the basketball program made a bold move by hiring former Nuggets coach Michael Malone as their Tar Heel's next head coach. Does this move excite you as an alum? And what can a coach coming from the NBA to the college level bring to the table for future success?
I love it, Michael. I'm going to be honest with you. And listen, I went to school with Hubert Davis for 2 years. We were teammates at the University of North Carolina. I got a lot of respect for how he handled the transition from a Hall of Fame coach, especially that first year, that miracle run to the NCAA tournament game, title game, excuse me. And of course, knocking out Coach K, baby, sending him into retirement in the Final Four. And I got a chance to experience that with my kids. So a lot of respect for Hubert's and what he did. But it was time for a change. I think our last couple trips to the tournament, one we kind of got in because AD was a member of the selection committee, and of course last year kind of limped in there without Caleb Wilson. He didn't kind of have his full squad, but it was time for a change. And Michael Malone, to get a coach with NBA championship experience, is going to be perfect because, as you know, I mean, I do college basketball for ESPN, and the college game now is kind of much like the pro game, where you get with the NIL money and guys moving from team to team from year to year. So you have to have somebody that's had exposure to that and experience with that. And, with his championship pedigree, his knowledge of being able to go out and get free agents and, break guys down and figure out how to put a team together in a short period of time and who's going to be able to gel and what you need for the system that he's going to run, I think it's going to be a good start for us.
Hey, a quick follow-up. As I mentioned, asked about North Carolina here, and you mentioned Coach K, whatever. Can you talk to us about? Everybody knows about the Duke UNC rivalry. It's legendary in the basketball circles. You got to be a part of that. Just describe for us, like to our audience, like what that was like. Is it as incredible as it's built up to be by ESPN and everybody else? Was it that intense? Was there literally a hatred for Coach K while you were playing and stuff like that?
Hey, now you got me sitting up at the edge of my seat, standing up a little straighter here, thinking about those Duke guys, getting them goosebumps coming back up on my forearm here. Yeah, it's intense. Yeah, it's for real. And yes, there is a real hatred for those doggone Blue Devils, right? Like back in the 80s, especially because we were number one and they were coming on strong, trying to knock us off the throne back in the mid to late 80s. So, those rivalries were intense, going against guys like Danny Ferry and Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley. But the only Duke guy I think I like is Grant Hill. That's because our kids went to school together. But the rest of those dudes, they go pound sand. Oh, and All Abdenabi. I like All Abdenabi too. But the rest of those dudes, I'll walk by them in the hall if I saw them and not say hello. It's still to this day. It's intense. I don't think there's any two schools with the basketball pedigree that are as close in proximity in location as Carolina and Duke. 7 miles apart. And so you're in the same restaurants, you're in the same shopping centers, you're in the same grocery stores with not only the players but the fans from the opposite side, and likewise. So it's not even game day. It's a week or two before the game is even played where that intensity starts to ratchet up. So you have to stay focused on the teams that you still have in front of you, but that Carolina Duke game is coming up, and that's something special. To be a part of that, to stay, since 1990, that I went to Cameron Indoor and had won 3 out of my 4 trips to Cameron Indoor. It's one of the things I am most proud about of my basketball career. And hell, I won championships in the NBA, and I still remember playing and performing at a high level there. And that was always something that's very important to me. And I take that with me everywhere I go. And in fact, every time Carolina beats Duke, I still try to send Grant Hill a text message that you go to hell, Duke, go to hell. He'll generally fire one back all.
Hey, a few years ago in my previous company, which was called Pure Hoops Media, I did a podcast on the Carolina family. I had George Karl and I had Matt Doherty, and I had some clips from Larry Brown and from Sam Perkins, okay? And one of the things they were talking about how basically Duke is kind of like a North Carolina wannabe in some ways, because North Carolina had the family, okay? And then the Duke guys created brotherhood. Yeah. And they relentlessly busting on Duke about that.
Yeah, they were copycats, right? Like we had a Carolina family, which is real, especially when I went to school. I had some tragedy there with my loss of my parents, and they wrapped that warm blanket of support around me. I love all of my Tar Heels for that type of support. Everybody from Billy Cunningham to James Worthy, Mitch Kupchak, dudes that you didn't even play with, right? Like it's a real thing. And I'm going to out Grant Hill a little bit because he always said, yeah, we got this brotherhood, but it ain't the same as what you guys got there in Carolina.
Oh, nice.
Love that. Now, Scott, obviously at the top of the show, we unfortunately touched on the passing of one of your teammates in Stacey King, longtime friend of yours. Curious to get your thoughts on the passing of one of your former coaches. Unfortunately, this past Saturday, the basketball community lost the legend Don Nelson. You spent half a season with the Mavericks in 03-04 on a team that featured both Nash and Dirk. Curious to get your thoughts on your memories of Coach Nelson.
Yeah, that was real sorry to hear that. And woke up to the news. I didn't get the news till Sunday, where I saw that Nelly had passed. It's always tough when we lose a pioneer, a legend in the game. And you talked about Carolina family. Well, there's an NBA family as well. In fact, we were just in Vegas for the Legends get summer meetings, and to go back and see so many of the old timers and guys that you played with or against. It's always a good thing. You remember that there is some family that goes to that. And I was very fortunate for my coaching career or playing career that I had some great coaches around me. I mentioned Smith and Williams and Jackson, Del Harris, and of course Don Nelson. I didn't know what to kind of expect when I got to Dallas. I was in my 14th season, almost completely out of gas. And Nelly gave me an opportunity to go out there and see what I could do. And it wasn't shortly after he saw what I could do that we went small ball and sat me on the bench the rest of the year. But I appreciated his willingness to give me an opportunity. Actually, I only had 2 good games in that time frame before he went small ball. They were both against Cleveland, and I got Jim Paxson, a full Jim Paxson, enough to give me a contract the next year to go play with LeBron. But it was fun being around Nelly. Even if you weren't playing, he was a great guy to be around, just to kind of watch him work a practice, work the X's and O's of the game, to be able to try to innovate. Like I said, going small ball. It didn't work. We got busted by Sacramento in the playoffs when they had Mike Bibby and Chris Webber, some pretty damn good team there with Doug Christie and whatnot. But it was fun to be around him. I remember sometimes he would come to practice, and either he had on his golf pants that he was going right to the first tee with after practice, or he still had the grass stains from having come from the 18th hole rather to practice sometimes. But he was a character, and I think anybody that had a chance to spend more than 15 minutes with him will have good things to say about Nelly. And I hope he finds eternal rest, and everybody appreciates what he did for basketball, not only as a player but certainly as a coach.
We're very grateful for all the time you've spent with us on 48 Minutes tonight. But I do have one more question I want to ask you, because, you're a successful broadcaster, right? And we're looking forward to hearing much more game broadcasts out of you. So as a broadcaster, what do you try to bring to the table that makes you stand out from other people that do the job of game analysts?
Well, I wrote some notes and I can't find them now, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I like extreme preparation is what I was going to say. Now I can't find them. I like to make sure that I'm obviously very prepared. And Michael, I'm probably talking about some of those statistics that you're laying on these broadcasters. I didn't know that was one of your specialties, so I could use some of those. Although I don't get too much into statistics, but I do like to know where guys are headed. If they're trending up, trending down. They're hot from 3 or can't buy a basket. But I like to be knowledgeable about the history of the game, the guys that I played with. But I also like to be entertaining. I want to share a story about Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen from my championship days. I want to get into the mentality of what it takes to be a champion on the floor, not just to score points, grab rebounds, and get your statistics from behind the 3-point shot, but what it takes to build a winning culture around an NBA franchise. What the sacrifices that have to be made by the players. And sometimes people don't always see that. They'll say, oh, play these guys, he averaged 17 points last year. Now he's averaging only 14 points, but he's doing other things. He's distributing the basketball. He's drawing charges. He's blocking a half a shot more. Whatever the case might be, he's providing valuable minutes to the overall success of the franchise. I look for those types of things when I'm calling the action. And I like to have fun when I'm on the air too. My whole thing is like, hey, how do I keep a viewer that doesn't watch 40 NBA basketball games a year or 40 college basketball games a year to keep them entertained when they're watching Georgia Tech and Cal and they don't got a dog in the fight and Cal's up by 15, 20 minutes with 6 minutes left to go in the game. How can I entertain that viewer to keep them to watch one more minute longer than they probably would have? I think that's my specialty. Much like Stacey King did before me. And I kind of watched King and his style. That's what I want. I want somebody to walk away from the game having not only just enjoyed the game on the floor, but listening to the broadcast and say, hey, that was value added, what Williams did with his play-by-play guy. They had a great rapport. They play off of one another, not afraid to poke fun at himself, but also stay on the X's and O's, inform a viewer with time and score and what could happen. I think I've wrapped that all up in the 35 years I've been around the game of basketball since I left North Carolina. So that's my main mentality when I go to a broadcast, hitting those 3 points, right? Providing what that championship mentality is like for a team, informative viewer, and having some fun on the broadcast. Because without that, what are we even doing?
Yeah, great point. And certainly something you did long before we met in Milwaukee, Scott. I think I mentioned that the first time I talked to you growing up here in Phoenix. I mean, I had a lot of fun listening to you and Tom Leander call Suns games when I was back in high school. And, it's been a pleasure ever since to know you. And I think the last time we had you on the show was episode 39. Of course, tonight is number 261. So
you guys have been rolling, man. Keep it going. I hope you get another 261 and the 48-minute podcast. It's always fun to come on with you because I Ross, like, you were with me in Milwaukee, right? You were working out when I always had to pull the bigs down when Oppenheimer didn't want to act right. I told you to come down and help me out down there on the floor. You're always willing to take some time to help me do that. So, and of course, Bruce and Michael, thank you guys so very much. And hey, I'm gonna look for that invite to the Hall of Fame, baby. I've never been to the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, so that would be something I would jump at the opportunity. And let me just take one more minute to congratulate Amari Stoudemire and Coach Mike D'Antoni for being inducted, guys that I both played for and played alongside. So congratulations to those two men being enshrined in Springfield.
Awesome. Scott, you're the best. Thank you so much. And with that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week. Be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.